And that brings us to a very, very important topic called ant versus apt thinking. Okay, understand that when we were born, we had to survive, which is coming from the reptilian brain, which is a part of us, a part of our brain that says survive, 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 survive. Okay. And when I have to survive, that means I have to do everything and anything to survive. And 90% of our thoughts are coming, 99.9, if I can be more closer to the reality, that is 99.9% of our thoughts come from wanting to survive. Only when we are not wanting to survive, or we do not have an actual or a perceived threat in our environment, that is when we go into receiving pleasure. So when I am not looking actively at surviving or a threat to my survival, that is when we are looking at receiving pleasure. Okay. So that means homework hai. I have to get up in the morning for an examination. My thought is, oh my God, exam. Oh God, I'm not prepared. Oh my God, this. Now understand what is the stimulus in your environment. Waking up in the morning way before time is the stimulus. Okay. And I'm waking up for an examination. So my thought might be, my God, it is so painful. I don't want to wake up. It is not all right. I'm not prepared for the exam. And then I go into such a thought, negative thought, negative thought, negative thought, that I start to have loose motions, or I get a fever, or maybe I miss my bus, or maybe I miss my alarm. And the panic mode makes me make more mistakes. All right. Now the same stimuli where I have to get up before time, but today is a picnic day. And I wake up before the alarm goes. I am super excited. I'm waking up. Mama, उठो उठो मेरा पिकनिक है. Mama saying, अरे अभी 3 बजे है, 4 बजे उठना है. नहीं है 3 बजे. No, no, no. Get up. I don't want to be late for a picnic. Come on, come on. Let's pack this. Let's pack that. Let's do this. Same stimulus has different responses because we are perceiving different outcomes from the same stimulus. And therefore, in one situation, your mind is going into an apt, which is the picnic situation, automatic positive response or automatic positive thought, versus ant, which is automatic negative thought. So, because we are perceiving a negative outcome versus a positive outcome, it is what we perceive, it is not actually what is. Please understand, there is no reality. It is always a perceived reality that we are seeking or we are following. Does this make sense so far? Okay. Now understand that our reptilian brain, which is telling us to survive, 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 survive. We are going to do the theory of the mind at a later time, Ashwini. So you'll understand where this reptilian brain, mammalian brain, and all of these are coming. We are just showing off our knowledge of science. So don't worry. Okay. The idea is the reptilian brain is there when we are born, and it just helps us, or it tells us no matter what, you must survive. That is the precondition. You are born to survive. You are born to survive. And that is when we see many a times when a mother abandons a newborn neonatal into a dustbin, it survives. It does not die unless there are situations where the child dies, but then that is a different purpose. But many a times we have heard stories about a just born baby being protected by animals, or someone finds the baby in time, but something happens and the baby is rescued and it is picked up. Okay. So even Mowgli survived. Even in our fantasy world, Mowgli survived when he went into the jungle.
Arpita Khan survived.
There you are. So she survived. She was an orphan. Exactly. So understand that we all know that babies survive. If they have to survive, they will survive. So when we look at these concepts, our mind is meant to survive. Our life is meant to be lived, not to be ended or not to go into the self-pity mode. And that is the reptilian brain. Slowly, slowly, as we start to grow up, our spine develops. And as our spine is developing, we are trying to stand upright. Otherwise, we are on our fours. When we are on our fours, we are slowly sitting upright. Then we slowly stand up. So what happens is my self-worth begins to develop. When my self-worth is developing, that means at that point in time, there are conditions to when I am worthy. My condition, first condition is I will survive if I am worthy. I will survive if I am worthy. is the first condition. And then there are labels to this condition. I will survive if I am loved. I will survive if I am worthy. I will survive if I am accepted. I will survive if I am in a surrounding. I will survive if there are conditions apply. And those conditions come from our environment. We are also going to talk at a later stage about the contextual development of a human being. Remember the Uri Bronfenbrenner, the microsystem, the exosystem, the mesosystem. Okay, so we'll talk about that at a later stage. So right now, understand that we are making our meanings, we are making our impressions based on what we perceive with our limited thinking. Our logical thinking develops at the age of 8, around the age of 8. Before that, everything is illogical. So every rule that was given to us, every condition that was given to us was illogical. And also, everything that seems logical is irrational. Write that down in red. Everything that seems logical is irrational because logic is always based on assumptions. It is never independent. It is never something that is the ultimate truth. Because in reality, there is no ultimate truth. We are living from infinity to infinity. So there is no reality in between. In between, there is no. The reality is based on where we are focusing. So if I look at 1 minute, Utkarsha, when we look at a certain aspect, that means we are saying that, okay, this is my reality, but that is a reality because you're focusing on that aspect of a situation. If you shift your aspect of your situation, then automatically your perception changes, your beliefs change, your expression changes. Utkarsh, you had a question. Please ask. I can't hear you. You're not in the
Hello.
video. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. If everything logical is irrational and there's no reality, why do we medicate schizophrenics?
Good question. We are medicating schizophrenics is one aspect of it. Understand, we are medicating the symptoms, not the cause. I believe every illness, physical or mental or emotional or social, is a coping mechanism adapted by that individual to deal with his environment, which seems to be painful for the individual. And then, because of that adaptive mechanism, the person has started to show symptoms which classify as 4Ds of disorder or 4Ds of abnormality: deviant, dangerous, dysfunctional, defiant. Defiant. That means it is different from what the society expects it to be. Okay. So understand, when we are talking of these the coping mechanisms, as long as they don't bother me and it is your behavior, most of the times we don't medicate anybody. We medicate schizophrenics because their behavior is deviant from what the social norm is, and it is also dangerous to that person or to somebody else. That is why we are medicating, and 90% of the medications, people, only slow down your brain processing. In mental disorders also, and even in regular medicine, if you realize, when you pop even a crocin, you become drowsy and you want to just rest. And that is basically putting your body into a rest mode so that you trust your body mechanism to take over and do things right. Your body has an inbuilt healing mechanism. So when you give your mind and body rest, that is when your body actually goes into a healing mechanism. Does that answer your question, oh, Pratik?
Answers the question, not convinced, but okay.
Okay. Because at so many levels, if every medicine had a sure shot way of healing you, then one medicine should be fitting everybody. It doesn't work. Different medicines work differently for people. The idea is we are medicating the symptoms because they are either distressing, dysfunctional, deviant, or defiant to you or the society in general, and therefore we pop in medicines. People who do mind work or help people with the mind work ideally suggest that let us not pop medicines into our bodies. Let's understand the mindset behind that illness. There definitely is mindsets, because I have worked with cancer patients, I have worked with serious diseases where people have been able to reduce their symptoms and also prolong their lives. They have been
Okay.
able to prolong their lives and reduce their symptoms because they have worked with their mindsets. Of course, sometimes it has to be the readiness of the mind. It also has to be readiness of your uh, ability to give up your comfort zone. Most of the times we are not able to give up our comfort zone, and that is why we find ourselves stuck, or we feel, oh, this doesn't work. We are not
Okay.
committed, or we do not have clarity about what we really want. Does that make sense to some
Okay.
of you?
Mhm.
Yeah. So understand that when we are talking of automatic nervous system, or it is working in apt and in ant. So like I said, first is the reptilian brain, which is encouraging you to survive. The second is the mammalian brain, which puts conditions of when or how you will survive. I will survive if my mother loves me. I will survive if I'm not helpless. I will survive if I'm brought into the community. Now understand, where do these beliefs come from also? Like I said, survival is something that is core to every living species. We must survive, plant, animal, human, everybody. Now go back in history. Go back and back and back and back and back in time. When humans used to hunt and survive. When humans were hunting and surviving, what happened is that initially they were all killing and eating. And they realized that humans was the weakest link. Human was the weakest link in the system, in the evolutionary system. So they realized that humans had to come together to become a herd, to become a community, to become a group, and they would go hunting in groups. In a group, there always is one leader and all others are followers. Do we agree? One leader, all others are followers. The decision maker is the leader, and the group will follow the rules that the leader is making. If you disagree, if you disagree to the leader, then whoever is disagreeing will fight the leader. And once he fights the leader, either he wins or he loses. If he wins, then the leader is replaced. You become the leader, but the group realizes that the leader is weak because he didn't think of a possibility. So, therefore, they will throw the leader out of the group as a weak link. It is the law of the nature, survival of the fittest. That is why, if you see in all the animal kingdom, the animals leave their weakest baby for the food chain and take their strong babies and go ahead. Even a mother, she leaves her weakest baby to become food for the rest of them. It is only the human beings, because we have evolved into medical sciences, we even protect our weakest link. We do not allow our weakest link to become a part of the food cycle. Okay, I am not going into the right, wrong, good, bad. Please understand this. I am speaking exclusively from what history and science are telling us. Okay, so what happens is the weakest becomes food, the strongest becomes the carrier of the genetic coding. In the human life, what we are doing is we are carrying the strongest gene forward as a leader, and the followers are the ones who are not really as strong in their leadership skills. So they follow what the leader is saying. And as long as I'm following, I'm a part of the group. As long as I'm following, I'm a part of the whole group. If I decide to go deviant, then the group will throw me out. So what happens is, I want to be a part of the group is the next best thought that we have been carrying in our genetic coding. First is I must survive, and second is I must belong to a group. And all our defense mechanisms, all our coping mechanisms have come up from wanting to belong to a group. What is this group? The group is the family. The group is my neighbors. The group is the community in which I live. The group is the religion that I will follow. The group is the economic strata of society in which I belong. The group is also the socio-economic, educational, and religious backgrounds that we all come from. And if I don't belong to this group, probably my fear is I will not survive. Because that is the genetic coding which has already been given to you at birth. Survive is the belief that is given to you at birth, and the mammalian brain tells you these are the conditions in which you will survive. The belongingness or the group to which you will belong will actually help you to survive. That is the reptilian brain. The mammalian brain tells you the conditions in which you will belong. That means if I'm a good boy, I will belong. If I bring good marks, I will belong. If I become a trophy to my parents, I might belong. Or maybe I will just become defiant and say मैं नहीं करता जा, and then I might belong because parents will say जाने दे ऐसा ही है वो. Depends on what conditions the parents will give us. It will depend on how I will survive in different conditions. A person who is defiant is not defiant everywhere. A person who is a follower is not a follower everywhere. We have different areas, and different areas of our lives require us to be different people. Clear as far as how we are thinking or what we are doing, all our actions are based towards our survival. Now we are talking of creation. We are talking of creating our abundance. We are talking of aligning to our abundance. If we have to create our abundance or align to our abundance, can I move away from the alignment and come towards my security? Because security has come from the fear of unsafety. And if there is fear of not being safe, then you are only protecting yourselves by saying, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. Makes sense? But we are not actually there's no need for fear of survival here in today's world. We are secure in a major way. We are doing well in a major way. Yes, Ashwin, you raised your hand.
So I have a question here. Let's assume that you grew up in an environment that was not very secure or safe. Is there a possibility to move away from that not safe mindset to a safe
Absolutely.
mindset?
Have you seen people who grow up in a jhopadpatti?
Yeah.
Their definition of safety is little different from the people who live in apartments. Their definition of safety.
Yes. Yes.
Versus what Mukesh Ambani will feel today as safety.
Correct.
Right? Each one has a different definition of safety. As we evolve on the Maslow's hierarchy, our first podcast, our first Sunday talk, as we evolve in the hierarchy of needs, our definition of safety also changes. Today, if you have only 500 rupees in your wallet and in your account for the rest of the 5 days, how safe are you going to feel?
Not very. Not very.
Why? Now, somebody who lives in the slums, he'll say, 500 rupiya, sala, mera to mahina nikal jayega. And Mukesh Ambani won't even bend down if he drops a 500 rupee note, because that is a waste of his time and money and energy. He's saying, utne time mein, jab tak main jhuk ke upar uthu, my time, that 1 second is worth millions. So 500 उठाने के लिए मैं नहीं रखूं, मैं नौकर रखूंगा वो 500 रुपया उठाने के लिए. It's a hypothetical statement that I'm making, but yet think.
No, it makes sense.
So each one's definition of safety changes with his environment. And if my environment changes, if I move from a hutment to a chawl, from a chawl to an apartment, from an apartment to a bungalow, then definitely my definitions of safety changes. For a person living in a slum area, dogs are very welcome because they are a part of their safety net. Because kutta bhokega to unsafety mera threaten hua hai, I can get up. and see who's causing that unsafety. You go to a luxury apartment, the same dogs will suddenly become, ee kutta hai katega, ee kutta hai gandagi karega, ee kutta hai not okay, and those dogs get put out of the housing society. So do you understand how the concept of safety changes and how we look at safety? If I'm very, 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 very hungry and thirsty, can I be fussy about what I eat? My survival depends upon me eating. But when I have enough money and when there is enough possibility for me to eat in a good restaurant, and then if I see a tapri where they are selling biscuits and chai without washing their hands, I'll say, ew, how gross. This is so not okay. My God, it is so unhygienic. But if that was your last option for survival, you would eat it. So, definitions of safety change with our perceived environment. People who would buy at the banya, people who buy at the banya, at the local vegetable vendor below their building, suddenly now, because we have the ability, you blink it and you go to Amazon, you go to Swiggy, and you know that they will be slightly expensive as compared to the local bhajiwala. And at the bhajiwala, you can actually check the freshness of the vegetable and you can buy it. But then we trust Blinkit and Swiggy and Amazon a little more than what we do with the regular bhajiwala. Oh, so understand, it's not right, wrong, good, bad. It is about convenience. What we have all done. Now imagine Mukesh Ambani living by his mother's standards or his grandmother's standards and going, Are nahi, my family values about going to the doodh wala and bringing do thaili ka doodh every day in my house. Wouldn't that feel ridiculous? Or it would become national news. Yes, please ask.
I'm so sorry for the interrupt. I have a follow-on question, okay?
Yeah.
So does that mean security and the mindset is, because you said it's dependent on the environment.
Yes.
So is it like back and forth, or is it just one?
No, it's always back and forth. Okay. Today I might be living in Mukesh Ambani's house or Mukesh Ambani in his house. Tomorrow there is a drought or a famine. And there is absolutely no food, no grains, no vegetables anywhere. What do you think? And in the whole world, I'm talking of the whole world. It's not like he can import it from somewhere in the world. No, it is pralay and the earth is getting destroyed. There is no food, no amount of his money is going to be able to buy him the food. Then what happens to him? You and he and I are all in the same line. Trying to savage. And he will fight with us for the basic dana that we might all get. He will also be in the jungle fighting to get his basic food. Make sense? Yes, Shruti.
Feel free to address this question later in the session or in a different session if it does not go with the flow. But sure. I wanted to ask that how do you identify conditioning that is no longer serving you in today's day and age? And
lovely, beautiful question. It is a beautiful question. Any condition that I'm trying to follow, first bring awareness and clarity to the condition. Most of the times we are misperceiving the condition. At a deeper level, the condition is something that is a defense mechanism that we are following. The defense mechanism helps me to survive. That means I might feel helpless and therefore I play the game, like, yaar bachcho, I'm doing so much in the house. Why can you not understand? Come on, help me. Tum teen itne bade bacche ho ghar mein, 3 men in my house, and I have to tell you what to do. I have to bring about. So these are basically, it seems very logical, Shruti, that, adults are expected to be proactive in their lives. And then I'm saying, but I have to keep telling you every time. Now, this is conditioning because I have conditioned my men in the family to listen to me so much that they are not making any independent decisions at all. And today, if they make an independent decisions, I will feel upset because I will wrong their decision. And that is how we work together as a family also. Like I said, these are my voids, these are the family's voids, and we are Ram Milai Jodi, oh, perfect soulmates made for each other. But tomorrow I work on my voids and they work on their voids. Now we will clash because we are no longer the same people we used to be. We have evolved in our thought process. So if we have evolved in our thought process, does it mean that we have become wrong people? No. Wrong is the label that the group puts upon you because you are no longer adapting or you're no longer like them in that situation. But understand, we came to belong to a group because of safety and security. I can deviate from the group because I don't need the safety and security 24/7. I buy a house, I buy a lock, but if I lock myself in the house, who is the prisoner? I am. Because I am the one who's behind that house, behind that door. Life is happening outside that door. Life is not happening inside. Life is happening outside. So if I lock myself inside the room, inside my house, I have a false belief or I have a false sense of freedom. I find my environment so toxic or so dangerous that I don't want to put myself out there. Growth of an individual is outside his safety zone. So if you are looking for your safety, are you really growing as a human? What values are you growing in? You know, I'll tell you my experience later after we stop the recording. Please remind me. Okay, I don't want it on records for sure. Okay, it is experience that I had in Jaipur. So that's a reference point, I will tell you. Okay, so do you understand that most of us are functioning from the survivor mindset rather than the creator mindset? Possibilities are in the creator. Survival is only safety, 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 safety. And I am bold enough to say that 99.99% people in this world are only surviving, not creating. And if we all begin to begin to thrive and begin to create, imagine the life we will all create for ourselves. And if I start to move, it will start to cause a butterfly effect. Do you know what a butterfly effect is? A butterfly effect is a butterfly starts to flap its wings here, the air changes here, and that changes something outside, that changes something outside, and that can cause a tsunami in Japan. A butterfly who flaps a wing in India here on a tree will move a leaf, will move the branches, will move a tree, will move the ground. The ground will move another set of ground and then create the vibrations in the earth to such an extent that it creates a tsunami in the sea of Japan. That is called as the butterfly effect. Okay, so understand one thing, that you shift within yourselves is definitely going to cause a butterfly effect around you. What happens for most of us is when I start to flap wings, I start to feel a sense of freedom. I start to feel happy. And suddenly people who live with me and around me, who have lived in the comfort zone, suddenly start to become upset because when I am changing, the puzzle which fitted so well suddenly has disrupted and people around you are starting to get upset. So then they want to bring you back to constant, constant, constant. Don't do this, don't do that. This is not okay. We will not talk to you. We'll abandon you. You're not belonging to us. You are making us feel helpless. They blame you. They make you feel horrible about yourself. But if you stand your grounds with a lot of empathy and compassion, chances are they will be forced to look at their needs. So that is where I said the other day, if I change, my selfish need is my environment changes. Because if my environment changes, less effort for me to convince everybody to move towards my goal. If I am stuck here and you are here in my environment, if you change and you go forward, then I can follow. You go forward, I can follow. You are making my path for me. But if you don't change, I am stuck here with you, and then hum bole ke okay, Ram milai jodi. Also understand, today's creator will become tomorrow's survivor. That means what I changed for myself today by becoming a creator. If I stay in this position for long, that becomes my conditioning. And if that becomes my conditioning, then I'm again in my survivor mode and I'm not in the creator mode. The creator mode happens moment to moment to moment to moment. Every choice that you are making is very momentary. So it can't be that I became a creator now. I found my comfort and I'm living in my comfort. Well, you just changed your conditioning, but you're still surviving in your comfort. You're not growing in your comfort. Growth happens outside your comfort. Growth happens when there is panic. Growth happens when there is discomfort, because only when there is discomfort will you move to a comfort. When you come to a comfort, it's good to live in that comfort for some time, but move from here to another discomfort. Every time you move to a different discomfort, you are growing, you're growing, you're growing. Imagine every year we passed a class and we went to the next class. Could we have chosen to stay in the 6th grade for the rest of our lives? Even with 35% marks, our teacher says, जाओ, आगे वाली class में जाओ. वो इसलिए because you are adequately trained enough to deal with class 6. Now go to class 7 and grow there. You go to class 7, you study well, you do things, and then you go again. And yes, it is a continuous process. We were trained to grow. Unfortunately, we are stuck to safety. And safety is such a myth in where you are right now. I think we are very, very safe in so many situations. And the more you choose not to grow and stay safe, I promise you, your environment will provide you with so many stimuli that will make you feel unsafe within your safety. Then your political parties will change, which will create unsafety for you. Your environment will change suddenly. Rules of the country will change suddenly. Your society will make rules. Mugdha, I will answer your question. Your society will make rules. The housing society in which you live suddenly will make new rules because you're seeking safety. Universe says wherever your attention goes, energy flows. So if safety is your attention, your energy will flow to safety. Universe will give you more unsafe situations for you to become safe. Because growth, if you want growth through safety, I will give you a lot of unsafe reasons to be insecure. Does this make sense? Yes, Mugdha, please ask your question.
I want to ask, as we are saying, we operate from a survival mindset and we always seek safety.
Safety.
So I just want to understand people who like doing risky things like parasailing, paragliding, and they have thrill out of it. How do they operate? Like, because they put themselves in a unsafe environment and they get thrill out of
Whose
it.
definition of unsafe?
Mine. I just want to understand how they operate. Like,
do you remember the roller coaster example I had given you? As a kid, we all sat in roller coasters in the giant wheel. When we sat in the giant wheel, we were going round and round and round and okay. Okay. But we enjoyed that feeling. It is the same feeling they're enjoying. They did not feel unsafe and stopped doing their adventure. We stopped doing the adventure and therefore we feel unsafe. For them, that adventure continues. They didn't stop enjoying that roller coaster ride. So now they want more thrills, more chills. And they're enjoying that. Yes. Does that answer your question, Mugdha? Charu.
Yeah. So let's say if I'm if there's a situation and I'm thinking about, let's say, my progeny or let's say somebody I love, etc. And I'm reacting to a certain situation in that way. Ki, acha, is this going to be good for the child, not, etc., etc. Where does survival versus creation come in there, and why? How?
Okay. Very first thing is, one is you're talking of a child which is creation. Okay. And then you're putting conditions even before the creation is there. That the mother of the child or the father of the child has to be someone like this, someone like that. And probably the soul will say, no, I don't want to be born in these conditions. So there is no pregnancy only. The idea is, on one end, you want to create a life, and on the other end, you are saying conditions in which the life will come. So again, I'm not going into the right and the wrong. When the time is right, when a soul says, okay, these are the conditions in which I want to be born, pregnancy will definitely happen. I have heard of pregnancies that have happened in spite of protections. I have seen pregnancies not happen in spite of no protection. So again, the idea is that it is not about right or wrong or good or bad. It's like you are putting what are conditions for a baby to be born are the filters that we are adding. We want this, we want that for the baby, we want this for the baby. This is the right condition. Very honestly, there is no right or wrong condition for any baby to be born in. It is us as parents that are perceiving that this is right for the baby, this is wrong for the baby, this is what I want. I will not have babies because there is not enough money, or the education system is so horrible. I want to give them a good life. A good life is also defined by you, by the conditions you are applying to a word called good life. What you think is a good life is so understand that when we are talking of a good life, it is as defined by me with my limited mindset of survival. I'm not coming from a mindset of creation. Because when you create, you're saying, wow, let's see what to create. Because the child has not come with a to-do manual. So the child will come with his own experiences, with what he wants, what he creates. You will grow in your parenthood if you don't have those rules and regulations. If you have rules and regulations, you are expecting the child to grow within your norms. I promise you, you are creating a child with problems. And eventually you will need my help. Maybe not you, your child might need my help as they grow up as an adult. Because I grew up with a lot of restrictions, is what the child will say. So understand that in a creative atmosphere where you're going to create a child versus the conditions that you have for having a child, they're very contradictory to each other. You are saying, I will wear a condom and then have a child. What are the chances of having the child? Because it is protection. It's a very funny example, but it's necessary for us to understand. Those are the filters. Blue eyes, green legs, purple stomach, rainbow hair. Those filters we are having for our children. The more the filters, the less the chances of having a free child. It will be born as a conditioned child. Does that answer your question, Charu? Thank you.
I just
Yes,
want to
Ashwini.
say, ma'am, that Charu and I are attending from the same screen, and the hand was raised, but you guessed who whether it's me or Charu that's asking the question. That is truly
She knows
magic.
this.
It's not magic, girl. It is just that when I see a question come in with a certain concept, I know where this question has come from. And like I said, I'm very, very attuned to what I am, my mindset. And if I know myself as much as I do, I can promise you I know 80-85% of who the other person is or where he or she comes from. So that is where you think it is magical, because you don't understand the logic from where I come. Yeah. So yes, and I knew exactly this question was also going to come, because when the first time I said Shruti, I knew it was coming from Shruti, but I knew when it comes from Charu, he's going to wonder, how does she know? So yes, thank you so much for making it a very obvious thing for me. Yes, Ashwini.
So just adding on to Charu's question, this is personally my experience, okay? What if you have a child when you yourself are not ready to be an adult? Doesn't that harm the child? Because you said there are no right and wrong
The
conditions.
child has chosen you, girl, as a mother. If the child has chosen you as a mother, then an immature mother is what I want. And an immature mother will give me those conditions in which I have chosen to grow. I have two boys, Ashwini, and there is a 10 years age difference between them. And both these boys have a very different mother. The firstborn has a mother who was very controlling, very rigid, very strict. These are the rules, and you dare digress from there. And that is the rule I gave my firstborn. And poor thing, he did not have the freedom. The poor thing is the today's Pallavi who's gauging it. The Pallavi then said, this was the right thing. You don't teach me. I know how to be a mother. And the second one, the second born was 10 years later when I had matured, I had grown in my life, I had become a better human being. And I was not a human doing anymore, or lesser human doing. So then my second one grew up in a different condition. Same set of parents, same set of sanskars, mother was different for both of them.
Isn't that wrong for the child? I mean,
No.
From my angle is what I'm asking.
It is wrong. If it is wrong from your angle, then you have to ask yourself, why am I doing it? Because
I've changed a lot. I have really grown from being not wanting to be a mother to being a decent mother, okay? But the period when I was learning, and that could have probably hurt the child.
Well, that is also something that the child needed to grow. Either he can hold his grudges and say, oh, I had a horrible mother. I would say, all the best, bacha. You're going to suffer for the rest of your life if you hold this grudge. Or
he doesn't have a grudge. I feel guilty.
Then tera guilt pe kaam kar, because that is also a conditioning, because I am guilty of being a bad mother. And therefore, I will not be accepted by my child. Or the world will say, what a horrible mother. And therefore, my acceptance is threatened. If my acceptance is threatened, then my survival is threatened.
Point.
मेरा point ही होता है हमेशा.
Pallavi, can I
It's a
add
little
here?
selfish. Yeah, it's a little
Yes,
selfish to
yes.
hold that.
Please say.
I
Vidusha.
also want to help her, saying that I'm a mother of two and I've had a very similar life to you. I had my first child in a very weird state, and then weird mental state. And then I had my second child after 7 years. I was a very different mother then. I didn't want a second child, but it happened to me. So I'm understanding where she's coming from. And I also understood much later with my sessions with you that these children actually choose the womb. They already know कि हमारे को यही इसी mother को choose करना है, चाहे उस mother का mental state कुछ भी हो. And I also want to tell her that you're in such a powerful course with us, with all of us, and I'm seeing such crazy things happen in my life. My book is like just so full of notes. Every day is a beautiful day. Every day is you meet the most insane amount of people. You see your universe listening to you. And if she constantly is in this phase where she's holding herself responsible for being a bad mother, वो guilt is such a low vibration, वो कुछ manifest नहीं कर पाएगी. Because manifest can only happen when you're really, really happy. And guilt is a very, very strong emotion. So she should really understand what you're trying to tell her. That कुछ
She
यहाँ पे
should
good
nahi.
bad
She
नहीं
should
है.
nahi. Vidushi, she should nahi. It is her story. If she chooses to still be guilty, that is her choice of happiness. I'm happy being guilty. तेरे को क्या?
Okay, fine. Good one.
No,
I
but
know.
this thing is, what about the punishment that I should receive for the time that I was not
There is
there?
no punishment. There is no punishment. Ashwini, the realization itself is because when the child has chosen an immature mother, the child is wise enough, the soul of the child is wise enough to recognize where it is being born. And the child will grow in that environment. The guilt comes from social norms. Who told you are wrong? My papa used to
I
hit
love
me.
that. I love that.
Because my father used to hit me so much कि अच्छी बेटी बने, अच्छी बेटी बने, अच्छी बेटी बने. I still hold no grudges against my father. My mother was not there on 2 instances of my life, and I make her feel guilty even today. My father is dead and gone 35 years ago. I still make my mother feel guilty about, you were not there then. She's saying, Arey, but 10,000 times I was there. Yeah, but you were not there then. So, the guilt is something that you are playing because she loves to play guilty. So I'm giving her more reasons to be guilty. So I keep telling her, I am the Krishna of your life who's come here to make life different for you. Tera karam tere ko dhulwani pe tuli hu main. That's the fun part that I tell my mother. But it comes from the thought that I'm not wanting to make her feel guilty. But she loves to play the guilty. She loves to play, oh my God, मैं बेचारी, मैं कितनी uncouth mother थी. I was such an unattentive mother. I was not such a great mother. So I give her all the reasons to feel like a bad mother because that is her happiness. She thrives on being a bad mother. So then
God, okay.
See, some people do, no? मैं बेचारी इसके बोझ की मारी. You know, the villains, I love this example that I give people. A hero is a valid hero only when there is a villain of your life. Otherwise, what is the use of Spider-Man without the Joker? Batman without the Joker. Not Spider. Look at Charu's judgment. It'll look at me. कि मैम आपको तो बैटमैन और स्पाइडरमैन का विलन भी नहीं पता. And he smiled so happily, you know, and when I said नहीं Batman, then he said, हाँ, okay, चलो माफ किया.
I have a
So,
question. Sorry.
yes, please ask.
But how we can feel, or maybe someone can feel happiness while feeling the guilty? मतलब आप guilty वाले मोड में कैसे happiness feel कर सकते हो?
Because happiness की definition क्या है? The known is happiness for me, no? अगर मुझे guilt को deal करना आता है, मैं बेचारी, अरे बाबा तुम मेरे को, I play the biggest, I told you this that day also in the workshop, that the poor me game I play very well. मुझे periods आए हैं, I have 3 men in my house, oh my stomach hurts, oh my god so bad, oh my god so, and my men rush to rescue me immediately. Now, when they're rescuing me, it works for me. The poor me works for me. Of course, I have to pay a price because actually when I want to do so many things, I can't do because मैंने बहाना बना दिया है कि मेरा I'm not okay with my period. But then the price versus the payoff is always something great.
Got it.
My payoff is always huger. So that is the happiness I'm choosing.
Got it.
And that also comes from conditioning because I don't know anything better than to play that game. Makes sense? So great. With such thoughts, we come to the end of our session.